Hi.
And you're joining us from the ashram as well, too.
Yeah, yeah. I just rolled up last night. I'm really happy to see you, Laura. It's been a while, so I'm
Yes,
excited to catch up.
yes, I'm so happy that we get a chance to chat. So, yeah, I remember I was actually thinking about the first time I came at the ashram, and we were chatting, and I was actually asking you some of these questions I want to ask you today. But it'll be nice to kind of dive deeper and get more of a recap about your experience. So, I'm very
Yeah,
excited for
for sure.
this.
And
Yeah.
how are you? How are you everyone here today?
Good. I'm really good. Yeah, we've got sunshine. There's no smoke in Calgary today, so I'm happy. Can breathe. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'd like to start with kind of learning a little bit more about your experiences with spirituality before coming to Anuttara, and then kind of what drew you to the ashram. So I remember when you first told me, but I'd love to hear the story again.
Okay, diving right in.
Let's dive right
Um,
in.
okay, so before I came to the ashram, like what was my experience with spirituality?
Yeah.
Um, I'd say like kind of as a teen and like child, I've always kind of been interested in just like serving others and taking care of people, and also just like kind of wondering about the big picture.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I moved from near Toronto, Oshawa, Ontario to Tsimshan Territory and Terrace for my last year of high school. I think that was my first experience of being like, okay, there's more out there than I already know. And so after high school, I started traveling and exploring a little bit. And yeah, I think it was through like discovering that there's so many different ways of being in the world that kind of fueled a lot of my questions about myself and who I am. And um, like these questions around my culture first, and then kind of
Mhm.
deepening into the more like existential questions. And then the first ashram I visited was Yashodhara Ashram near Nelson in Kootenay Bay in southern BC. And then I think it was the summer, maybe a year or two later, I came to Anuttara for the first time.
And so, what I know you were close to Anuttara, but how did you first hear of it? Did people talk about it in Paris, or how did you first come to hear about it?
I actually I bought a ring from Vira, who was selling
Oh,
some jewelry in Paris. I think maybe it was for Riverboat Days or something like that. And yeah, I picked up a pamphlet and like just looked at it for like a year or something, and then
hmm,
eventually came up to explore. Yeah.
cool. So, when it eventually came up, what was happening in your life that you were deciding, okay, I want to go here? Like, it's time. Like, what was going on in your life that made you have the decision, okay, let's go. Let's see what this is all about.
Yeah, I think I was really in curiosity mode. Like
Mm-hmm.
from my first experience at another ashram, I felt like, okay, there's something here to explore, as in like just in general with spirituality. I noticed that I felt like more spacious and just intrigued and like, yeah, what's going on here kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then coming to Anutara, it was like much a much smaller community, so
Mm-hmm.
it was really nice to have more of a relationship with the people who really started the place, and yeah, just have my hands in the mud and right along with them, and just like really feeling like a part of the like something that was being built. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you have been with the ashram for so many years now. So you came and then it kind of became a big part of your life since. And I'm curious, how has your perspective on spirituality and just kind of on those questions that you've had even changed since coming to Anuttara?
Yeah, sure. Um, so how's my perspective changed?
Yeah.
Um, well, I feel like maybe now is a good example of this. Like, um, I was in the hot tub with my mom yesterday, just hanging out. And I was just telling her how I needed to relax and just how there's kind of a lot going on in my emotional world these days.
Mm.
And and she says to me, like, what do you mean? Like, you've been putting so much energy into yoga and meditation. Like, what do you mean you're feeling down? Like, as if that goes away or something.
That's
But
funny.
yeah, and I didn't manage to articulate this at the time, but um, yeah, I think my perspective has changed in that, like, I don't expect myself to be happy all the time. I'm more interested in being intimate with life as it is, and yeah,
Mm.
that's my aim, which is, yeah, very different than when I first arrived here for sure. Mhm.
Did,
And
yeah.
also there's a lot of just lately feeling very much humbled by how little I know.
Mm.
That's yeah, that's something that's changed too, you know. I think
Yeah.
it's like hoping to like grasp onto some understanding and like keep it forever, and but no, it's more like just like I know nothing and I'm here for this, like what is here.
Yeah.
And so
It's beautiful.
on this
Yeah.
journey together, Laura.
Yes. It's funny as you're saying that, I can really relate, especially with how life flows. And I truly appreciate that about what I've learned at Anuttara. Like, I had these ideas as well beforehand that maybe this will solve something or make something, I don't know, a certain way. Like, I thought there was something to be fixed, I guess. And now I'm coming to this point of like, yeah, I know nothing. There's nothing I feel like I can even do about this. And just like, you're just kind of along for the ride. So I can
Mhm.
definitely relate to that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is humbling, but it's in a good way, in the sense of like, it feels like a relief, if anything, like y- there's less weight on your shoulders.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like when it comes down to life, like life has a beautiful way of humbling us and always presenting us with cool opportunities to kind of test what we know and how we interact with everything around us. Has there ever come a time in your life where you've maybe been met with a challenging situation? And then has any of the teachings at the ashram maybe helped you navigate
I've never been challenged.
that? Life's just easy breezy, beautiful.
Yeah. Um, yeah, of course. Every day there's opportunities
Yeah.
to see my shadows and um, ignorance and yeah, every day is an opportunity to wake up and see more of reality as it is. Um, let's see if I can think of a specific example. Mm,
A little story.
mm, let's see. Well, maybe I'll think on it and we can come back to it.
Yeah.
For example, about how these teachings have helped me navigate a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, every day, every day. Um, yeah, like if I think about it was my birthday the other day on
Yes.
Sunday.
Yes. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
How old are
And
you?
29.
29. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like for a lot of people, sometimes around our birthdays, there's like just a lot of reflection and sometimes emotional density can come up. For me, that was the case. And yeah, just being able to, well, I often forget as usual, as most of us do, but like having some of those tools that I know I can reach to when I'm feeling like caught up in a story or like
Mhm.
I'm not good enough or um, yeah, I'm not a good practitioner or any kind of story like this. Like there's this resource of the heart that is
Mm.
always here.
Mm.
Um, and I very much feel like a beginner at that. And yeah, but it's like there's so there's so much to receive from the heart. And when I can remember to go there, I remember Artemis using this analogy one time. It's like walking a path that gets kind of worn down, and then the access becomes more smooth and just natural.
I love that analogy. Yeah, I never thought of it, but it's in a way that kind of gives you kind of inspiration to keep coming back to the heart, knowing that, oh, like maybe it's hard, difficult in this moment to connect, but just knowing that if I practice this, it's going to be easier and easier and almost natural in the future. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's interesting hearing, like, everybody has a different way of explaining how to connect to the heart. And I think people often talk about like connecting to the heart, but then I know for me, especially at the beginning, I was just kind of like, what does that mean? Like, how do you do it? Like, okay, that sounds beautiful and lovely and there's benefits, but how do you do it? So I'd love to hear like how you connect personally and what it means to you.
That's a great question. Yeah, there's lots of ways. Like one way is by taking a big deep breath, maybe. And yeah, like remembering how small yet big I am, like that paradox.
Hmm.
And something that we learn in the 200-hour teacher training is Hridaya meditation. So this is like, it's been really nice to actually come back to the ashram last night and practice that again. I've been kind of in the busyness of living in town, and just to come back to the simplicity of noticing the breath and catching the mind when it goes into mind things that are, somewhere other than right here and now, somewhere interpreting. Just coming back to body sensations as well helps, and thinking of my teachers. Yeah, there's lots of different ways. Um, but I think like thinking of my teachers is a big one, and like having that inspiration in my life.
Why is that, do you think? What helps, like remembering your teachers? How does that help you?
Mm, well, I can see that like it just sparks some kind of light in my heart. I can see like something is like, it's hard to articulate, but like you can just feel presence in this person, and it inspires that. It touches that in me.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's hard to explain these things, but yeah, inspiration, if I could put it simply. Mhm.
And I'm curious as you were saying that, like, and I definitely notice it within myself. Like, there's this attraction and this like desire to kind of run away from the moment, whether it is through stories of the mind or just thoughts of the past or the future or these all these different things. And from your experience, like, why do you think that is? This is, I know, a big question, but just from your own life, why do you think we kind of run away from the present moment?
Mm, well, I'm actually starting to wonder if, well, yeah, there's two kind of responses that are coming up in me. One of them is um, like pain and suffering and fractures in our experience in our nervous system from like things that we couldn't process at a certain time, and then that becomes like a way that we can't fully experience the present now.
Hmm.
So it's like a way of coping with something that was overwhelming in the past.
Yeah.
So like some people might call that trauma, some might call that karma.
Hmm.
Um, and then also like I'm thinking of like this whole existence as like a great play, like it's kind of part of the play is like forgetting so that we can remember.
Hmm.
I've heard Artemis and Bhairav speak about this as well.
Hmm.
And this is also something that I'm, yeah, just like relishing in from another teacher that I've been listening to lately, Shambhavi Saraswati. And she speaks about like that the goal is to relax. Like when we're fully relaxed, then we're realized pretty
Mm.
much.
Wow.
And how yeah, like it's just the whole point is just to enjoy and in this great play.
Wow.
And how like even the yeah, everything, the contractions, the the fear, like all of the sensations, whether pleasurable or unpleasurable, are part of the play.
Mm.
And so like there's that aspect that I find really helpful to remember. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful reminder, and it's like, as you were saying that, I was kind of reflecting and feeling into that in my own experience and just really noticing how it's sometimes difficult to relax and like let things be. But then there is also sometimes like, oh, if I'm not relaxed, then there's something off. But then I realize, like, something I think about when I think about you, and like that's the first thing I think my mind goes to when I think about you is how you always say there's space for this too. That's like a beautiful, and I've thought about that often. I don't know why it's always been coming up for me. And I think that's such a beautiful approach. And at first, I mean, even now, I don't know if I fully understand that, but there's something about it that I like. And it's like, I think that's a big part of the teachings from Anuttara, that there's space for this entire human experience and like to even relax into the fear and into anxiety or anything. There is that ability, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your relationship with this space and how you always come back to that and remind yourself of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like, yeah, this is something that guides me, like very much so. Like there's space for this too.
Mm.
Mm. And like, especially when there's a lot of emotion and like mental activity,
Yeah.
like remembering space is like medicine for me.
Mm.
Yeah. And yep, I often forget. And that's kind of the play.
Hmm.
But, what was your question again?
Yeah, I'm like, so even you said now, like you often forget, but then there's something that sparks in you that you remember, and I'm curious how you kind of like integrate that into your life. Like I feel like it's easy when you're in spaces that you're surrounded by community and everybody's kind of reminding each other. But then when it comes down to kind of getting, you're in the city or you're with family or you're working, it's
Mhm.
so easy to get like really sucked into that. So how do you integrate these teachings of space and just relaxing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. The integration. We love the integration. It's yeah. I I've been falling in love with integration. Like presently in my like personal individual experience, there's been a lot of like just fog and messiness and like just oh yeah, I like remembering presence like as kind of like a gasping like oh god, oh yeah, I remember like that, kind of what it feels like come up for air for a second. But something that I love to remember from one of my teachers, Thomas Hubel, is that like everything that comes up is our path. Like,
Mhm.
there's yeah, there's this great like I feel like it's kind of like maybe this overlooked beauty and opportunity of integration. Like maybe, yeah, I'm not sure why, but we often like want to avoid when we feel contracted, and there's
Mhm.
not a lot of space for being open and transparent about these things in our current culture.
Mhm.
But what like richness there is in just coming down to earth and being with what's happening right now. This is where the gem is. It's always right now. Yeah.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful reminder, and I love the way you presented that too. It's
Yeah. I also like, I hope not to like over present my understanding because I'm very much a beginner, but
yeah,
yeah.
but I think like the way you say it, it's simple, you know, like I think it's easy to overcomplicate it, and I've heard these concepts spoken about in very complicated ways, but I think there is like true power in simplicity. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that. And so I'm going to change the topic a little bit, but I know for me, being initiated into a tantric lineage, I've never really understood what power that would have and how much that would help me in my practice. And I know for yourself, you've been initiated, but you've been diving really deep into the path and this lineage. And I'm curious what your experiences have been after initiation.
My experiences.
Yeah, like in the sense of like, has it helped you in any way? Like what have you found like you've received through initiation?
Hmm. What have I received? Well, yeah, I feel like, how can I begin? I feel like my whole life has started. Kind
Wow.
that's the first words that come to mind, but also I feel like I don't understand everything that I've received, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of like maybe comes with integration perhaps.
Yeah.
But and yeah, I'm sure that I'm still in the process of receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I feel like there's some clarity around what my life is for. Like I
Mm.
feel this longing to know what's this all about, you know, like
Yeah.
what am I, what are we, yeah, what
Yeah.
is the nitty-gritty of it all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, yeah. I also feel really interested in like my individual unique expression. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I kind of was bypassing a bit
Mm-hmm.
before. And maybe this is linked not only to Shiva Hum, but other studies that I'm doing, is like just honoring my unique incarnation and
Yeah.
what, what wants to come through me. And yeah, and I could say simply like just I feel like there's a great opening to the
Mm.
divine that's happening. Mhm.
Oh. And when you speak about like honoring your reincarnation and just your life as Bhavani, as Brittany, what does that look like for you? What does that mean to you?
Big questions.
Yeah, I want to know.
Well, right now, I'm really curious about um, my story, like as a child, and like, integrating those experiences that I wasn't able to experience as a child.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm curious about emotions and how I can bring those more onto my spiritual path because I'm a very sensitive being and like often overwhelmed by emotional experience. And so
Mm.
I'm really curious to see, yeah, like what life has in store for me in that realm.
Yeah.
And yeah, how I can bring my emotional experience more, and kind of like harvest the fruits of that. And also just like relax more into them as they are.
Yeah.
So this kind of feels like the edge of my growth and like acceptance and landing in myself. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, you know, even like I think as you're saying that, like the word spirituality, like when I would first think about spirituality, I would probably think of churches and priests and people praying, maybe reading holy books and like, there's this image and it feels very, I don't know the right word for it, but it feels very sacred and maybe very out of touch to like maybe my just everyday experience. And when you say things like emotions and then just honoring yourself and your experience and like every little thing that happens in every moment. And then for me, definitely that switched into realizing that's what spirituality is. And I feel like there's no person in the world that isn't living a spiritual life. Maybe you call it something else, but it is, it's everybody's experience and it's so accessible to everybody. And I think that definitely coming to Anuttara and like speaking to beings like yourself, like that's helped me understand that a lot. And so like I really like what you're saying with emotions. Like, yes, that's such a big aspect of what it means to be a human. And a lot of us like we don't talk about it or know how to navigate them or just even what it means to have these things happen to us. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, Laura, thank you so much. It's always so like touching to speak with you because you direct your questions towards like, yeah, what feels potent in the moment. So thank you so much for your curiosity and yeah, I've learned a lot through answering your questions.
No, and I learned so much through asking them. Like I think for me, and definitely like through this, it feels like it's something that I'm curious about for myself, just as a human being. And I think just through listening, the answers are found also through listening to somebody else. Like we're so similar as humans. We all really share this human experience, and I think through listening to each other, we can learn so much about ourselves. I think that's really, instead of like reading a book, I just can ask somebody and just kind of dig deep, and then that's it. Like, yeah, and it resonates. Yeah, and I'm curious. Like, I love these kind of little eureka moments that we all have. Sometimes, like, something dawns on you, and you're just like, ah, yes, like this feels right, and this is maybe so simple, and it's always been like obvious. Do you have any maybe personal eureka moments that you've experienced, maybe even recently? I'd love to hear what they maybe have been and what you realized.
Mm. Well, there's two that come to mind right away. Yeah, the first one is from being at Guruji's ashram, Shivoham in India. I guess it was like a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and this is something that continues to teach me is like I was feeling really anxious, like being around a master for the first time and just like yeah, new people and just just being a little bit of a stress ball.
Of course.
And yeah, just at some point it came to me that just through the practices and the beautiful processes that we're going through, it was just like if God wants me to be anxious for the rest of my life, I surrender to that.
Wow.
And like just allowing things to be as they are rather than like, oh no, I'm anxious, oh no, I'm anxious kind of thing. So that's something that I try to remember, even now.
How did that feel? Having this like feeling of like, wow, if God wants me to be anxious for the rest of my life, I surrender to that too. How does that feel when coming across that?
There's like a letting go, but I mean, it's a teaching now. It's not like fully integrated. Mm. But if I just feel into that right now, it's just like everything's all right. Yeah. And I'm here for
sorry.
whatever is here. This is what I'm here for. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Even with that reminder, as you said that, like there's a joy that comes to it, like for me, like I'm definitely like I get very like excited to speak to people and like we're live and everything. And yes, I could call that more anxiety or excitement. It's really feels like the same thing, serious in a way, and it's actually fun maybe, like if we allow ourselves to believe that. I don't know. I like that a lot. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this allowing, that feels like something really potent and profound to walk into. It's like this allowing, this, yeah, it's kind of like this too, in space for this too, yeah.
Hmm. And so you said you had two. One was that, and what was the other one?
Another eureka moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm. Um, yeah, I think just, well, the moment that's coming to mind now is, like in meditation um, when we start to have like different sensations or even emotions coming in meditation, and then but staying with the practice of inquiry and
Hmm.
witnessing, just noticing how like there's no thought or idea or sensation or memory that can possibly like describe what we are, like even though there's this tendency maybe to like hang on to an image of like, oh, I'm this vast beautiful bird, or like and just staying with that and watching that
Hmm.
interpretation as well, and like there's so much more than that.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And and so yeah, like as you say that, I really, really love that, what you just said, because I think, especially like for me, like really being new to spirituality in this path for almost this entire time, I've been really in this mindset of, oh, maybe like I can do something to understand or to achieve this or get this, like only if I, do this thing over and over again, maybe I'll get it. And now, like, as life is just kind of unfolding for me, I'm coming to realize that there's nothing I can do. And like there's really nothing I can do. And that's very humbling and relieving in a way too. Like having that feeling of just, yeah, maybe powerlessness in a way, but in a good way. It's not like a powerlessness that feels not empowering, if that makes sense. It feels kind of like a paradox. But
I
anyways,
was going to say that same word, paradox, yeah,
yes, yeah,
in a sense that like there's nothing I can do to be more of what I am.
right,
At the same time, there are things I can do to help me know or like be open towards that grace.
right, yeah,
That's how I was seeing a paradox.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's I really enjoy that, what you just said.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I've got my last question for you.
Okay.
Let's say you have a time machine. You can go back in time and talk to yourself. Let's say, 7 years from now, before you came to Anuttara or even the first ashram. And if you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say?
Good question. Um, I would say go for it. Like, don't worry about trying to present yourself in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen. Just like listen to the most simple yearning in your heart. Yeah. Mhm.
It's beautiful. Do you feel like you yourself, like at that point, did you listen to that yearning?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, more sometimes than others, but
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, I think, yeah, I've been pretty interested. But yeah, the ways that I haven't listened is mostly unconscious, like it's not in the moment where I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna listen to my heart. It's more like I really want that donut, or the satisfaction of being seen a certain way,
Mm,
or yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And so, like, listening to that yearning, like, what has that looked like for you?
Um does that look like? Well, yeah. Sitting down to practice when I feel like a bit of a calling, like rather than continuing on with my to-do list of the day or something else, like actually listening to that and going to put myself like at the feet of the divine, taking those actions felt really important.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Do you feel like it's really important to have like a sit down practice along with what you said earlier, just kind of seeing that in every instance of life?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Do you feel like it's really also important to have like a maybe more like a physical practice, like a like an everyday sitting down practice, for example, or an asana practice, in addition to just seeing that in everyday life and like using life as a practice in itself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no guru, but all of, like the teachers that I follow always recommend a seated practice, like whether, starting from where we're at with 5 minutes a day or 10, and then, yeah, but of course, like everyone has their own path. Like my partner, for example, is like mountain man.
Yeah.
He finds joy and connection to spirit by taking care of the land and being like steward for the land, and also like basking in the glory of the mountains. And there's all kinds of ways. I in one of the outhouses here at the ashram, there's a little quote from Rumi that says, I think it says, "There's 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground."
Wow.
I love that.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, and also like I do think some kind of formal practice is really beneficial as well.
Yeah. Just one of those thousands of ways to kneel down and kiss the ground, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
Bhavani, thank you so much for joining me today and for this conversation. Yeah, I'm definitely going to re-listen to this again because I love all your insights and it's so just grounding and relaxing to just speak with you. And I really appreciate that. And I feel grateful to know you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, right back at ya. I
Oh,
love you, Laura. Thank you so much for
thank you.
your
And I hope everybody else finds these insights just as useful as I did. So love you so much. And thank you for joining me.
love
And
you, Laura.
see you soon. Love you, Bhavani. Bye, everybody.